This is Scott Dorner with Ops Systems. I'm going to take you through a quick introduction to LabCal. LabCal is an add-on product for the Ops SQL product, and it allows you to do sample scheduling and sample tracking totally integrated in the Ops program. It's kind of like a mini LIMS, and I'm just going to go through now and show you some of the features that it has. Here I have my dashboard, and I set up an icon to get into LabCal. So I click on it. And what it does is it brings up a calendar that shows me at a glance kind of what's going on in the lab and what's going on with my samples. And again, if you've ever used our JobCal product, you'll notice that it's very, very similar to it. What it does is yellow samples are overdue by a day, red samples are overdue by more than a day. So we see here that the effluent sample was scheduled for yesterday, and we're going to take the BOD and TSS test. So I'm going to kind of take you through setup of a test and a sample, and then you can see how that data integrates into Ops SQL. So in order to set something up, go into, lo and behold, setup. Get in here, and I'm going to set up my tests. Now, tests are anything that in your lab you test for. So what we have is I'm going to browse the tests. Here's all the tests that we've set up in LabCal. So let's say I've got to add in ammonia. So I go back here and I click New, and I can go ahead and type in whatever I want, set it up. But the other thing that we can do, I delete that out because I can add tests from library. So Ops preloaded a long library of all the tests that we've run into and all the job sites that we've been to, and you'll notice that one of these is ammonia. So what I do is I bring it across, and this, again, you can type them in. This just allows you to set up a whole bunch of tests quickly and easily. So I click Save, and now ammonia is in my list. There it is. Now I can come in here and fill out some more information, like if I happen to know the store code, the CAS numbers, all that kind of stuff. But essentially that's all there is for setting up a test, other than we need to select our method. So I've also set up many of these methods before, and here's my method for ammonia. Now again, that seems a little weird. What we allow you to do is set up your methods, and then you associate for each test you associate a method with it if you want to. Again, many times it's a one-to-one relationship. Like here, I've got ammonia, and it uses standard methods for ammonia. But there are times, like with EPA's 200.7, where you do the metals method, and it applies to multiple tests, like mercury, cadmium, chromium, whatever it is. So that's why we do methods and tests. So here, I save and close it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the samples. So I go in here, and I do set up samples. And it pulled up the effluent sample because that just happened to be the one I'm on. So I come in here, and I'm going to add a test into the system. Check this little auto sense button. You'll see what that does later. Add test. I want to do the ammonia test. Now it comes up and asks, okay, what kind of schedule do you want? And what I'm going to say is that I want to do this effluent. I'm just going to add in the ammonia every Thursday and every Monday. Okay? And I want to start it on the sample that I got yesterday. Okay? I can build some very complex schedules here. I can come in here and say I want to do it monthly, the 4th of every 3 months, and I can add multiple schedules in. So if I want to do it the 4th and 5th of every 3 months, I can keep adding them in to build up a schedule any way I want. Also, you notice that I'm adding this ammonia test in independently. So if I have a sample called effluent, and let's say I do BOD and TSS every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I only take the ammonia every Monday and Thursday, the sample will get set up for every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and ammonia will only show up when it needs to. So again, I'm going to kind of keep it simple here in the demo. But again, you can essentially set up any sample schedule that you want, including down to custom, which is adding any random dates in and just building the schedule by hand. This is in the case where, let's say you want to take samples on all your employees' birthdays. There's no way to set up a schedule that happens once a week, so you could come in here and do custom. Again, we can't think of when you use custom, but there are times when we need it. So I click Save Schedule, save and close. And what it did was it looked up and it adds that test in, and it will and it linked it to the variable effluent ammonia. Now it did that because I checked that auto sense, and it knew that we're at the location effluent. It knew that I'm doing the test ammonia, so it linked those two things up. So here you see that you actually link it to an ops variable. You can always click here and change it because sometimes the auto sense will make poor decisions. You know, depending on, like if you have BOD and CBOD in there, it could make the wrong decision. So you always have to review that. But essentially that's what it takes to set up a sample. I click Save and Close, and you'll notice that it'll take a second as it tries to figure out exactly what it needs to do. It has to reassign those tests and figure out the schedule again. So you see here, now on effluent, ammonia shows up. And here I have a new effluent test for Monday where it does TSS and ammonia. So it resolves the whole schedule for each sample for you. Again, now what can I do? Well, let's set up another sample from scratch. So now I just want to do a new sample. I'm going to call it my primary effluent. And I can give it a long description. If I can type a little better here. Choose my location. Now these locations were set up earlier in Ops SQL. So we use the same thing. I choose a sample type. It's a composite. I come in here and I add my tests in again. Here I'm going to do BOD and TSS, so I add two of them together. Auto sense variable again. And here I'll do every Monday and Friday. And then I can add another schedule in here. I want to do it also every second Saturday of every month. So I want to do it Monday and Friday and the second Saturday of every month. Kind of a crazy schedule, but just to illustrate how the thing works. So you see I can add in two of them here. Save schedule. And it comes up here and it tells you that there's two different schedules. I can no longer do it. And it links it to the variables properly. And I click Save and Close. And now, again, it's going to take a while as it builds up the calendar. Notice this time it actually takes longer because it had to do a little bit more here. So I've got my primary effluent sample right here, so forth and so on. So it schedules these samples out. Now what can I do with these samples? I can come in here and highlight and print a chain of custody. I can print something called a sample order. So I can, and these were reports that were designed in our spread report generator. So I just highlight them and do that. Now, the first thing I probably want to do is go ahead and receive a sample. I can do that in one of two ways. I can either do receive samples, which receives all these samples together at once, or I can double click on each one to receive it. So I double click here, and it pulls up my sample, and I can come in here and say, okay, it was sampled by Scott Dorner. When did I take it? I took it at, let's say, 7:55 this morning. And I can come in here and enter in my first chain of custody. Notice it says that it was relinquished by Scott Dorner. It just figured that out because that's who took the sample, and received by Jan. And when did I do that handoff? I'll say 5 minutes ago. And so it keeps a very simple chain of custody record. It also shows you the tests that are going to be available. I save those changes, and it becomes purple or whatever that color is because it tells me that that is received. Now, next I would come in here and I can enter results. Now I can do that in kind of one of two ways. I can come in and so let's receive yesterday's ones. So here I'll do kind of a quick receive. So this is just doing the same thing as pulling up each one individually, but now I don't have to do it. I can say, okay, it was sampled by Scott, and I took this one at 6:22, and there's no notes. And again, I can enter in my first chain of custody here. The other nice thing I can do is we do have some little shortcuts here. So I can highlight this whole range and hit F3, because most likely if I took those samples, I did them and handed them off at the same time. Now maybe I took this sample, though, at a slightly different time. Save changes and exit. And now those samples are received. So let's say now I want to enter in some results. Again, I can kind of do it in many different ways that allows us to, depending on how we want to do things. You can use this form, which is our close edit sample form, where you can take one sample and do everything you want. Or you can use custom data entry or monthly data entry in Ops SQL to enter the data, because they're all interlinked. Remember, we're always talking about variables here. So come in here, type in my results. I can say my BOD is less than 4. The effluent TSS is 9. And the ammonia is 3. Let's say 3. Now, I also can fill out my analyze by, so I know who analyzed the data, all that kind of stuff. Okay? Any kind of notes that I want to keep, I can do all that sort of information. I can add more chain of custody if I need to. But when I'm kind of done with it, I just save changes. And now it turns this blue color, which means it's fully analyzed. In other words, there's a result for everything in that system, for everything in that sample. Okay? So now basically it's telling you these blue ones are ready to be closed out. Now the next thing I just want to show you is you can also enter results by test. That's what this little shortcut button is for. What that allows you to do is pick a particular test and just show me everything, all samples that have that test in it. So I go in here and refresh, and here you see there's that less than 4 that I just entered. So if I'm on the bench and I'm doing my BODs, I can set the dates and say, show me all the BODs that I have to do. And I can even say, well, I only want to see ones that are not entered. So again, you don't have to use this way of entering data. It just depends. So here, I'm going to come in and say my primary effluent, the BOD is 177. And I did that at 9 a.m. this morning. And it's analyzed by me. Okay? Save changes and exit. And you'll notice now that that number shows up on the test. So all these things, again, it doesn't matter which way you use to enter the data. They all go together the same to make up the data for Ops SQL. The next thing you're going to do, I guess at the end of any particular sample, is you can come in here, edit the sample again, and close it out. Okay? What that says is that we're done with it. So I fill out my close date and just click Close Sample. It says, are you sure? Yes. And now it turns gray, which means we're done with it. So you can look at this calendar and see exactly what's going on at any particular time, which samples are in, which samples are overdue, which samples are analyzed, and what's coming up next week, what's our workload. And this calendar fires out, I think, up to about a year into the future, and we'll actually go way back 100 days back into the past so you can see what's out there. Now, there's also ways to run reports to say, or quickly pick from samples, like I want to pick from overdue samples, or I want to pick from my received samples. This would be the case where maybe I received a sample 60 days ago, sent my metals off to some commercial lab, and then they're going to come back and give me the results. Now I can't close that out until they're done with it. So these things here give us a quick way to select from them. So I can say, well, that was an effluent sample, so show me all my effluent overdues, okay? Or all my effluent samples maybe that are received. So there's only that one. So we give you a variety of tools that allow you to quickly see what's going on, and essentially there's other than these right-click sample orders and chain of custodies that we can print out here, that's essentially it, a quick overview of LabCal. There's a lot more features in there, but what's really neat is how it integrates with Ops SQL. So now if I get into a monthly data entry form, I can come in here and less than 4 shows up. It's in my audit trail. That was the data that I typed in. If I go to Audit Information, you see that I just entered that data for our effluent sample, and it shows up on the 29th on Friday here. But I can also right-click in here and go to Sample Information. What it will do is it'll pull up that sample. Notice it's read-only. Even though I'm a super user, I have all rights. It just figures if you're in monthly data entry, we don't want you, changing sample information. But you can look at, who took the sample then. This may tell you, hey, in operations, I got a high number. Sorry about that. That's a little reminder of something I need to do. That we have a sample here, sorry, that broke my train of thought, that we maybe got a high number on. And I want to find out what's going on about it. So I can come in here and see if there's any sample notes, what the chain of custody looks like, who took the samples, who the analyst was. So this may all help me figure out what exactly is going on. Like possibly it's a new guy took the sample, so we're going to want to go interview him and, how did you take the sample? What did you do? Did you verify the temperature? Or, all that kind of stuff. So it allows us, again, the same thing over and over in Ops, that information is at our fingertips. The data that is in LabCal is now available for any reports, analysis, and graphs, just like anything else that comes from SCADA, operator enter data. It's all the same. And to Ops, it doesn't care where the data came from. That's essentially it for LabCal. Thank you for your time.